That night when I returned from the service, my things were on the porch and a sign on the door of my former room read, "No entry to the roof." My mom didn't even look at me, just slipped me a motel voucher and said, "You disappeared for years. We've moved on with our lives. We don't need your problems in this house." I stood in uniform and pronounced, "Got it." No questions asked. 2 months later, I did something they in no way expected. Now my phone is bursting with messages like, "Please, son, we're willing to do anything. Just talk to us," or "That's not what we meant." I finally responded, gave them a minute to plead and said, "You threw me away like garbage. So stay out of my life." I came back home after years. They left my bag in the rain. My name's Aaron. I'm 28. Not a kid, not old either, just somewhere in that weird in-between where you're supposed to have figured out life, but somehow you're still carrying around pieces of the past like loose change. I hadn't been home in almost 8 years. Not because I was running from anything dramatic. It was supposed to be a short-term move. A job, a city, some space. But weeks turned into months. Months turned into years. At first, we kept in touch, texts, calls, birthday videos, that sort of thing. Then slowly, as these things tend to go, the communication faded into short check-ins, emojis, and occasional shared links. My family was always different. My mom, Delilah, is deep into spiritual healing, chakra charts, healing crystals, moon water, the whole package. You'd think our house was a yoga retreat center. She wasn't a bad mom, just emotionally distant. More into aligning the vibe of the room than sitting down for a real talk. My stepdad, Craig, was one of those guys who talked about inner peace but had the emotional warmth of a cactus. He came into the picture when I was 15. Didn't say much, didn't do much. He was there. And then there's Natalie, my stepsister, 22 now, always buried in her phone. Even when I lived at home, she rarely acknowledged my existence. I never cut them off. Not really. I still helped when I could. Sent money for groceries, paid a chunk of the internet bill, even covered a couple of house repairs when things broke. That felt like my role. Stay out of the way but pitch in from a distance. I always told them ahead of time when I was coming back, even if it was just a few weeks' notice. This time I did the same, texted, emailed, even called. Natalie replied with a thumbs up. Craig said, "All right, nothing from my mom. Cool." My flight landed late. I was already wiped from delays. A screaming toddler 2 rows behind me, and one of those seatmates who pretends not to understand elbow space. I got to their house a little after 11. Not ideal, sure, but I'd told them the timing in advance. I stood there on the sidewalk, staring up at the house I hadn't seen in almost a decade, and immediately something felt off. The porch light was off. Always used to be on. Mom used to ramble about how a light at the front door kept energy flowing or whatever, but now, just darkness. I walked up to the door and there it was. My name, written in marker on a piece of paper taped to a beat-up suitcase. The same suitcase I used when I first moved out. Just sitting there, on the porch, in the rain. I stood there for a moment. Not because I was trying to be dramatic, just trying to process. Was this some kind of joke? A mistake? Wrong house? No, it was the right place. My bag had rain splotches, so clearly it had been out there a while. I rang the bell. Nothing. Knocked. Still nothing. Pulled out my phone and texted Natalie, "Hey, I'm here. Read receipt." No reply. I tried the doorknob. Unlocked. The scent hit me first. Incense, something citrusy, and a weird undertone like overly sanitized floors. New. Not how I remembered it. Lights were on in the kitchen. Craig sat at the table, scrolling on his phone like he was waiting on an Uber Eats delivery. Not like his stepson was coming home after 8 years. He didn't even look up when I stepped in. "Hey," I said. He finally glanced up. "Your stuff's outside. We're full up." No welcome. No smile. Just that. I didn't know what to say. I just stood there waiting for someone, anyone, to act like this wasn't insane. Natalie walked into the hallway, saw me, looked back down at her phone. "Mom's upstairs. She said to see her before you go." "Before I go?" "Go where?" I asked. She just turned away, mumbling something I didn't catch, and went back to whatever TikTok hole she lived in. Craig hadn't moved. Still scrolling. I made my way upstairs. Something about it felt wrong. I can't explain it. The hallway smelled like lavender spray and the walls were newly painted. Everything felt erased. I stopped outside my old room. My heart beat faster, which was stupid. But still. Taped over my old keep out poster was a handwritten note in bold letters. Storage room. No entry. Underlined. Twice. I tried the knob. Locked. I knocked. Nothing. My mom's bedroom door opened. She stepped out in a bathrobe, hair wrapped in a towel. She didn't hug me, barely even looked at me, just handed me a slim envelope. Here's a voucher for the Cedar Inn. You'll stay there tonight. We've moved forward, Aaron. We don't need your energy pulling us back. She said it like she was giving me life advice, not evicting me from my own history. I stared at the envelope. Can I at least see my room? It's not your room anymore. It's a storage space now. You've been gone too long. The house has adjusted. We've worked hard to build peace here. Don't bring tension. And with that, she turned and closed the door. Locked it. I stood in the hallway like a guest who'd wandered into the wrong Airbnb. I knocked again. Nothing. Can I grab some of my stuff at least? Still nothing. Footsteps. Natalie brushing past me on the stairs. You're making this weird, she said, not even looking at me. I walked back downstairs. Craig hadn't moved an inch. I asked if I could crash on the couch. That's where I do my morning yoga. I asked what happened to my things. We gave you what you need, he said without even blinking. What does that even mean? Shrug. He stood, grabbed his water bottle, walked past me into the garage. Slam. Lock. I stood there, light too bright, silence heavy. I walked outside, grabbed my bag, checked that it hadn't been rifled through. Couldn't tell. I was too tired to care. The second I stepped off the porch, the light clicked off behind me. Subtle. The Cedar Inn looked like every other roadside motel, two bright lobby board receptionist, vending machine humming in the corner. The woman behind the desk didn't even ask for ID. Room 207. Your mother called ahead. Of course she did. I got into the room, dropped the bag, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the wall. No TV. Just a painting of some trees. That's how my first night back ended, surrounded by silence that wasn't mine, a voucher I didn't ask for, and a suitcase full of rain. I kept replaying it all in my head, trying to figure out what I missed. Some sign. Some warning. But nah. This wasn't a mistake. This was the new normal. And I wasn't part of it. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I closed my eyes. Sure. But the motel room was too still, too sterile. My brain wouldn't shut off. I kept thinking about the porch, the way my name was written on that note like I was a lost delivery. Every second felt like a punch to the gut. Not because it was shocking, but because I kind of expected it. And that's what made it worse. Around 6:30 a.m., I gave up trying to rest. Threw on the same hoodie from the night before and left the room without even brushing my teeth. Coffee in the motel lobby was watery and bitter, but I choked it down and stared at my phone. Still nothing from my mom. Nothing from Natalie. One seen checkmark. No replies. I told myself maybe they were tired. Maybe it had just been a weird, late-night misunderstanding. A moment. People get weird when they're exhausted, right? So I went back. The neighborhood looked the same but colder. Less inviting. Even the trees lining the street felt stiff. I walked up the front path, heart thumping in my throat. Their car was in the driveway, so I knew they were home. I knocked. Waited. Nothing. Knocked again, louder this time. Still nothing. I walked around to the side gate. It was wide open. That was weird. Mom was always paranoid about boundaries and protecting the home's aura. She once made a whole fuss when I forgot to latch it during a thunderstorm years ago. But today, just swinging in the wind, I stepped into the backyard and looked through the kitchen window. Natalie was there, sitting at the table, headphones on, scrolling her laptop. I tapped the glass lightly. Nothing. Again, harder this time. She looked up, pulled one headphone off. You should have texted. I blinked. I did. She shrugged. Was busy. Then she got up and walked away. I stared through the window like an idiot before pulling out my key. I'd never returned it. Guess no one thought to ask. It still worked. I stepped inside. The house smelled like lemongrass and patchouli. Natalie was gone. I could hear her footsteps heading upstairs. I followed. Before I even made it past the landing, Craig appeared from the hallway. Yoga mat under one arm, socks with sandals, looking like someone pulled out of a lifestyle magazine for people who hate joy. He didn't speak right away, just stared at me. "Can I get into my room?" I asked. "That's not your room anymore," he said. "It's storage." "Okay, but I'd like to get the rest of my stuff." "We gave you what you need." That phrase again, like they were quoting a manual. "Is it still in there? Can I at least look?" He shook his head. "Delilah doesn't want disruptions." "Disruptions? I just want my things." "She's meditating. Come back when your energy's better." I laughed. Couldn't help it. Not a loud laugh, just a single, flat exhale. This was ridiculous. "So where's the rest of my stuff?" He jerked his thumb toward the garage. So I went. The garage had always been cluttered, but this time it looked like someone had tried to make it look neat by just pushing everything into corners. And there they were. 3 cardboard boxes with Aaron written on the side in black Sharpie. I opened the first one. A hoodie, 3 shirts, some mismatched socks. Box 2 had a couple of my old paperbacks, a photo album, and an empty phone case. The third had a few cords and a broken lamp I'd thrown out once. No laptop, no tablet, none of my tech, none of my real stuff. I went back inside. Craig was wiping down the counter like it was a sacred altar. "Where's the rest of it? My laptop? My headphones?" "Natalie uses the laptop for school now." "You're joking." He didn't answer. "My tablet. You left. That doesn't mean it's free for the taking." He shrugged, like it wasn't his problem. "You left years ago, Aaron. You basically abandoned it all." "No, I didn't. I said I was coming back. I never said they could keep everything." He just walked off, back to the garage. I could hear the door slam and the lock click. So I walked upstairs. Delilah's door was closed. I knocked. "I just want to talk," I said. "I'm meditating," she replied through the door. "Please, Mom." Silence. "You can come back tomorrow if your energy's less aggressive." I leaned against the wall, eyes burning. I didn't even feel angry anymore, just hollow. Natalie poked her head out of her room. "You're still here. I want what's mine. You're acting like it's life or death. It's just stuff. To you maybe, not to me." She rolled her eyes and slammed her door. I sat on the top step for a while, eventually went back downstairs. The house didn't even feel like mine, like I had been photoshopped out of every memory. I called my aunt. She used to be my safe person. She picked up, listened, then told me she didn't want to get involved. Said I should give it time. Then asked if I was still doing graphic design. I said yeah. She said good, and that was it. I hung up, sat in the driveway with my boxes, pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. Not to check balances, just out of instinct. And that's when things went from bad to worse. I noticed a couple weird charges: grocery delivery, subscription renewals, utility bills I didn't recognize, all tied to a shared account I'd opened with Delilah years ago, back when she couldn't get approved for anything alone. I called the bank. The account was still active. "You're listed as a co-owner," the guy on the phone said. "So we can't block her from using the card unless you formally close the account." I did it. Right there. Had them cancel the card, lock the account, send paperwork to remove me completely. Not out of revenge. Out of necessity. I texted Natalie, "You've been using my card." She sent back a shrug emoji. "Ask Mom." So I did. Texted Delilah. She called me. "That's petty, Aaron," she said. "You're making things hostile. You used my money. We needed it. You weren't here. You never said not to. So silence equals consent?" She sighed and hung up. Then she blocked me. I stared at my screen, heart pounding. I walked back into the house one last time. Craig was at the table again. "I locked the card," I said. "You can't use it anymore." He didn't even flinch. "You abandoned us. We had to keep things going. That's not your decision. It's not your money. It's not stealing if it's family. It is now." He stood up. "You need to leave." "No, I'm not done." He grabbed my arm. "Don't touch me. You're just like your father." That hit deeper than it should have. Pulled away. "Back off." He stormed to the door, opened it. "Get out before I call the cops." I grabbed my boxes and left. The door slammed behind me. I sat in my car and didn't start it. Just stared at the steering wheel. They hadn't just locked me out of a house. They'd shut the door on every version of me that ever lived there. But I wasn't going away. They used my name for bills. What else had they used? That's when I opened the county records site on my phone and typed in the address. I still had rights, and I was about to use them. I didn't go back to the motel that night. Instead, I drove around town for a while. Past my old high school, the park where I used to meet friends, the convenience store where I'd grab snacks after midnight shifts. Everything was smaller now. Or maybe I was just finally seeing it all without the weight of obligation fogging it up. I parked outside a diner and just sat there, scrolling through my phone. Eventually, I opened the county clerk website again. I typed in the property address of the house. I don't know what I expected, maybe nothing. But there it was. My name. Still on the deed. Not as some old tenant or past contributor. Not as a cosigner from back when they needed help. No. I was listed officially and legally as a joint owner of the house. That changed everything. At first, I just sat there staring at the screen. Not even blinking. It was like some weird combination of betrayal and validation hitting me at once. They told me to leave, boxed up my stuff, treated me like a stranger. But they were still using my name. Still using my credit. My signature. My silence. I stayed up that night going down the rabbit hole. Called the power company, insurance provider, internet service, anywhere I thought my name might still be floating around. Every single one? Yep. I was on the account. Half the bills? In my name. The kicker? Property taxes. Guess who'd been receiving the notices? Me. They'd just been getting sent to the old email address I barely checked. It wasn't just shady. It was calculated. The next morning, I booked a meeting with a real estate agent. Some guy named Felix who had great reviews online and didn't ask too many questions. I told him I was still legally on the deed but didn't live there and I wanted out. One way or another. "You've got a few options," he said. "They can buy out your share. Or you can force a sale. And if they don't want either?" He smiled. "That's what lawyers are for." I liked Felix. That afternoon I went back to the house. Again. Not out of hope this time. This wasn't an emotional visit. This was business. Craig opened the door and immediately blocked it with his body. "What do you want?" "We need to talk." "Say it from the porch." "Fine," I said. "I know about the deed. I know about the utilities. I know about the taxes. You've been using my name for years. That stops now." He blinked. Just once. No denial, no guilt. Just that looked like he was scanning for a way to win. "I'm not here to fight," I added. "You can buy me out. Or we sell the place. Your choice. You're trying to ruin this family. You did that when you left my stuff in the rain." He stepped out onto the porch. Got in my face. "You think this is fair? You walk away for almost a decade, then come back demanding money." "I'm not demanding anything. I'm asserting what's legally mine." "You're selfish." "Then we finally have something in common." He tried to block me again when I turned to leave, grabbed my shoulder like he wanted to make a point through force. I yanked myself away. "Touch me again and I'll call the cops myself." He let go. I walked. Not even an hour later, my mom called. "Aaron." Her voice was softer now. Shaky. "Please don't do this. You don't understand what you're doing." "I understand perfectly. You kept me on the deed to help you qualify for loans, kept my name on accounts so you didn't have to pass a credit check, used my money without asking, and when I came back, you left me on the porch like a stranger. We were protecting our peace. Well, now I'm protecting mine." She started to cry. I didn't hang up, but I didn't say anything either. Just let the silence stretch until she finally whispered, "You'll destroy us." "You destroyed it already. I'm just collecting what's mine." I met with Felix again the next day. He started the process. Got the house appraised, drafted the preliminary documents, and gave me the rundown of what to expect. I didn't tell the family right away. I wanted the facts lined up first. Then came the fallout. Natalie messaged me, "Is this for real?" followed by 6 question marks. Then a selfie of her crying. Then a long message about how finals were coming up and how I was throwing her life into chaos. I left it on read. Craig called me 3 times. Left a voicemail threatening to sue me for property abandonment. Which isn't a thing. I Googled it just to be sure. Then came the texts from numbers I didn't recognize. People from my mom's yoga classes, her energy healing circles, even some guy who used to mow the lawn. All of them saying some version of, please reconsider. Like this was a breakup and not a legal matter. I ignored every single one. The realtor put the sign up in the yard 2 weeks later. That was the spark that lit the fire. Delilah started vague posting on Facebook, cryptic messages about betrayal, energy vampires, and lessons from the universe. She tagged me in one that said, sometimes the ones who claim to love you the most are sent to test your spiritual boundaries. I muted her. My cousin sent me screenshots from the extended family group chat. My aunt was furious, mostly because now Thanksgiving was going to be awkward. My uncle said I had every right. My cousin just wrote, damn. Craig started stress posting on Instagram photos of his garden with captions like, some roots can't be saved. Natalie posted an Instagram story that said, when your own blood wants to see you homeless upside down face. Meanwhile, I was getting things done. Switched my banking info. Froze my credit. Set new passwords on everything. For the first time in years, I felt like I was standing on my own name, not someone else's version of it. A week after the sign went up, Delilah called me again. We can't buy you out. Then sell. Natalie has nowhere to go. She's still in school. She can dorm. You're being cruel. I'm being fair. This house is everything to us. Then you shouldn't have treated the co-owner like trash. She cried again. I didn't budge. Felix told me the house had good prospects. Rising market. Decent interest. The process was moving. And the more they tried to stall, the more obvious it became they were trying to guilt me into backing down. But I wasn't that kid anymore. I wasn't scared of being called selfish. I wasn't going to fall for the teary voice and the you don't understand. Because I did understand. I understood that love with conditions isn't love. I understood that sometimes family isn't the people you're born to, it's the people who actually show up. And I understood one more thing, maybe the most important. If they wanted to play cold, I could play colder. And unlike them, I had receipts. There's a weird kind of quiet that happens before people panic. You can feel it in your chest before it shows up on your phone. I had 3 full days of silence. No texts, no calls, no new Facebook shade. Just this eerie calm. Then it hit. All at once. Missed calls. Paragraph-long texts. Natalie sent a photo of her standing in front of the realtor's sign, red-eyed and furious. Then came the all-caps rage, you're ruining my life. Craig left a voicemail that started with a weirdly calm tone before devolving into, you're tearing apart everything we built and we will take legal action. I didn't even listen to the whole thing, just forwarded it to Felix. Delilah went full Facebook prophet. She was posting about spiritual betrayal and toxic family members. Her followers started chiming in with support and vague prayers. Then someone must have found out the actual house was going up for sale because the tone shifted fast. The comments dried up. She lost a few followers. Some clients started pulling out. My cousin sent me screenshots of the group chat again. One aunt was furious with me, another said it was about time someone stood up to them. Everyone else just posted emojis in silence. Meanwhile, I stayed focused. Felix sent over the updated paperwork. The appraisal came in higher than we expected. Turns out all those energy upgrades and the manicured backyard Craig loved posting about actually added some value. The best part? Delilah and Craig couldn't afford to buy me out. Not even close. They tried getting a loan, but with their current financials and the fact that Craig had tanked his credit during a failed essential oil dropshipping side hustle, not even joking, no bank was touching them. They were out of options. I got another call. This time from Delilah. Her voice was different, calmer. Tired. She asked to meet in person. Said she wanted to talk like adults. Part of me almost said no. But a bigger part of me wanted to hear it. So we met. Neutral ground. A coffee shop I used to walk past on my way to school. She sat down across from me like she didn't know how to start. She looked older than I remembered. More brittle. Aaron, she said. We made mistakes. But this doesn't have to be forever. I waited. I should have handled things differently. I panicked when you showed up. We'd finally built something peaceful. And I was scared you'd bring all the old tension back. You mean me. I mean the version of you I remembered. Angry, unpredictable, full of resentment. Maybe because I never felt welcome in that house. She sighed. We tried. No. You tried to create a version of the family where I didn't exist. She looked down. We can't afford to leave, she said finally. Natalie's finishing school. Craig's freelance work barely covers our basics. I'm trying to rebuild my client list. I'm not stopping you from rebuilding. But I'm not responsible for saving you either. She didn't argue. We'll find a way, she said, standing up. I just hope one day you'll want to come back. I stood too. You locked me out. Now watch me close the door. The house sold 3 weeks later. I got my share. Not a fortune, but enough to feel like something finally balanced out. I packed my stuff, what was left of it, and moved 2 states over. Got a small apartment. Changed my number. Deleted the socials I knew they followed. My cousin's the only one I still talk to. I told her that if anyone from the family showed up, I'd call the landlord and make it official. The final message I got from Natalie said, "Hope you're happy. You broke everything." I didn't respond. Because here's the truth, they broke it a long time ago. I just finally stopped pretending I didn't see the cracks. I don't have some life lesson to end this with. No motivational quote. Just this. If someone shows you what you mean to them, believe them. If they push you out and expect you to keep the lights on, maybe it's time to cut the power. That's what I did. They wanted peace. They got silence.